Maximum ride, said Jeb Batchelder. Oh, I've missed you so much.
I don't even own a television. The Angel Experiment, Maximum Ride, Book 1 with Worst Bestsellers.
Hit it.
1, 2, 3. There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. 'Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books. We've got a very special episode this time around because we are doing an incredible, one-of-a-kind podcast crossover event. I'm J.W. Friedman.
I'm Chris Minimum Walk Collision.
And with us this time around are the hosts of Worst Bestsellers, one of the only other podcasts out there with the patience and or masochistic streak to read things that they know they're not going to like just to talk about on the internet. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name's Renata. I'm one of the co-hosts of Worst Bestsellers, and I'm a librarian, so you can trust my opinions.
And I'm Kait. I'm the other host of Worst Bestsellers. I'm not a librarian, but I like to think that I have that sort of personality that people trust me anyway.
Well, I have no qualifications whatsoever, so we're glad to have you here.
Our trustworthiness levels should be at an all-time high today, so that's exciting.
Well, I think my clout score just went up, so.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. And so speaking of our modern world, we're reading a book this time around. I'm going to say it's by James Patterson. I'm not sure if I believe that or not, but we'll get into that later.
It's by James Patterson in air quotes.
Yeah. It's the first of a series called the Maximum Ride series entitled... Fuck.
The Angel Experiment.
Gotcha. So, I know that you brought this book to our attention, and I just definitely like to know more about the background of this from the two of you, because I had never heard of these before, and I read half of this book with my mouth agape. So I want to know more about the provenance of the Maximum Ride series.
I can't speak to where James Patterson got this idea from. Like, I can't speak to him, but I can speak to how I heard of it. Which was, I got my first full-time library job in 2012, which was kind of peak Hunger Games mania, peak Divergent mania, and so everybody was coming in and saying, oh, if I liked Hunger Games, what should I read next? And so, of course, the internet was full of lists, like, if you liked Hunger Games, read this. And a bunch of those lists had the Maximum Ride books on it. And I, myself, was like, I haven't really heard of those. I guess I should read one and just find out what it is, and see if I should be recommending this to kids. And I read the first one, and I was like, oh, no, I should not. I would not recommend it to a kid who liked the Hunger Games. But
question answered.
The thing is, it doesn't matter, because these books are actually super popular. I just recently at my library had to reorder and replace most of this series just because the copies were falling apart from being read too many times.
Wow.
And in the course of doing that, I learned that this was originally released as a 9-book series, and then now it's sort of reworked as 2 series. It's still the same set of books, but now the first 3 are technically Maximum Ride : The Fugitives. And then the next ones are Maximum Ride : The Protectors.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And so, like, all the numbering is redone because it used to be 1 through 9, and now it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 again. And it drives me nuts when things like that happen because kids want to know what comes next. I'm like, oh boy.
And I'll say, too, I worked as a children's bookseller from 2007 to 2010, which was right when these were starting to come out. And they were one of the books that we would get literally by the crate. And we would stack them on end caps and they would disappear. And everyone wanted to know when the next one was coming out. And it's one of those things where I never wanted to say to a kid, like, why are you reading this? It's garbage. But I always had like 6 or 7 things. Well, while you're waiting, here's some good books that you can read until the next one comes out in like 3 weeks, because this is James Patterson and he's got, I guess, like a mine full of people just ghostwriting for him all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do think I think 2 reasons why this is popular, and I think one is James Patterson has that kind of like brand recognition where parents are like, oh, I should get a book for my kid. I heard of James Patterson, I'll get that. And then the other thing is, and I say this as someone who as a child read like 80 Babysitter's Club books, sometimes kids just like dumb garbage.
That's fair. I read Encyclopedia Brown by the truckload, so there's only so far I can go criticizing what young adults read. And I mean, I think it's worth mentioning we don't normally do young adult books, so I'm kind of out of my element here, but holy shit, this book is fucking insane.
Yeah, these are exceptionally weird and exceptionally bad for young adult books. I would not use them as a measuring stick for that age group.
So, I guess before we get any deeper into talking about the book, we should try to summarize the plot for the people at home in a little segment we like to call Plot in 60 Seconds. So, here is some fancy-ass music.
Nobody knows if you finish or not. You got 60 seconds to give them the plot. Plot in 60 seconds.
All right, so Plot in 60 Seconds is what it sounds like. Usually Collision tries to summarize the plot in 60 seconds because I'm really bad at it. But this time around, I believe, Kate, it's going to be you.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let me know when you are ready, and I'll let you know when to begin.
All right, I am ready.
Okay, go.
So Maximum Ride is a story about Max, who is what I imagine a adult white man would think of as a 14-year-old girl. And she is 98% human and 2% bird, which means she has light bones and wings and super strength, along with her 5 siblings, I guess, who she escaped from an evil school with, of varying ages. And one day, the government's like teenage 4th grader werewolves kidnap her littlest sister, and the 6 of them go on like 400 pages of trying to get her back, and then escaping from evil scientists and flying to New York and having hilarious antics juxtaposed with like awkward action scenes and hiding out in the subways and trying to figure out who their parents are and where they come from, very abruptly ending with no real resolution.
I think that's a little over, but just due to accuracy, I give it an A+.
Yeah.
And nothing, I want to say to the people at home listening, none of that was made up. This is all stuff that actually happens in this book.
If anything, some of it was a tiny bit underplayed. Like, you nailed 4th grade werewolf henchmen, but you forgot to mention that about...
because they age so fast that they die when they're like 5 years old or something.
Yeah.
With the bodies of teenagers.
Yeah,
Right.
they're all described as looking like Robert Pattinson, basically.
And they all have, like, this is kind of a throwaway thing, but, like, everything in James Patterson, it's thrown away, but, like, repeatedly. So it's just this throwaway line that you get 6 times about how they all have strikingly beautiful voices. But the thing that we haven't mentioned yet is that about halfway through the novel, they become cyber werewolves with glowing red laser eyes.
Oh, that is true. That burn
And they're
holes
called
in shirts.
erasers.
Yeah, which, like, I don't know if this is just me and my upbringing or something, but I could not think of the band Erasure every time I read it. So I kept imagining them as being very, like, new wavy looking. But they're essentially described as having quote-unquote male model good looks until the last chapter when suddenly there are good-looking female erasers, too.
Yeah.
For no reason that's really explained. But yeah, this is one of the strangest things I've read in a very long time because, you know, as you described, it's about bird children who have wings and can fly. They all each have superpowers that appear to just kind of come and go based on what's necessary in the plot.
They are extremely plot-driven superpowers. Like Angel, eventually, she's the youngest one, and through the bulk of the book, her superpower is getting kidnapped and meaning that the next thing has to happen.
Her superpower is moving the plot along.
Yeah. But then very late in the book, her superpower becomes Firestarter's dad's superpower, where in addition to being a bird girl, she can mentally control other people.
Yeah. She can read minds up till that point, but
Yeah,
then she starts
that's true.
being able to implant suggestions as well.
That's true. So and then there's Max, who is super strong, has wings. I really like the description of, this is what an elderly man thinks a 14-year-old girl is like.
Because it's written from her perspective for the most part, too. It's first person.
Yeah.
There's a lot of breaking the fourth wall and addressing the reader directly in incredibly awkward ways that I enjoy.
She's her secondary power, I guess, is just being sassy.
Yeah, and she's maternal.
Yeah.
Which is very much played as a superpower, I guess.
Yeah, she's kind of the boring Cyclops or Leonardo of the group.
And she's maternal, but she's not like girly, because that would be wrong. She's like cool and not feminine in any way, but she can't help but think of these people as her children in like a non-girly way.
Now, would you two describe her as like other girls?
I think that she's actually not like other girls.
Well, I think she's 98% like other girls, but she doesn't want to admit it.
The 2% is like other birds.
Yes.
Okay, I want to pose a question to everybody here.
Yeah.
We all know James Patterson didn't write this. My question is, was this written by a young person trying to sound like an old person, or an old person trying to sound like a young person? Because I was on the fence the entire way through.
Maybe it was written by a bird trying to sound like a human.
My theory is that it was written by someone who is at least my age, because the one thing that this book is very enthusiastic about is its classic rock.
Yeah,
that's true.
There's at least 2 not chapter titles, but section headings that are straight out of classic rock radio. The second book in the series is literally called School's Out - Forever.
which the characters in this book also yell when they're escaping school. And about like 3 chapters before that, it ends with the sentence, "Welcome to my nightmare." So somebody loves Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Also, one of the later books in the series is called Maximum Ride: School's Out Forever.
Awesome. You know what we haven't even mentioned, too, is that we've said her name is Max, which is her nickname. But we haven't mentioned that her name is actually Maximum Ride.
Yes.
Which I will give whoever wrote this book that. Apparently she picks that name for herself when she's 10 years old, and that is absolutely a name a 10-year-old would pick for themselves.
But the thing is, when she's 10, she picks the last name of Ride after Sally Ride. And before that, she didn't have a last name, or she was kind of using the scientist last name. But before that, she was apparently just called Maximum. So that's weird also.
I was trying to think about if I picked a name for myself when I was 10 and it would have been like Knight Rider Cyber Dude or something. So I understand the motivation.
Should we get into what we liked and didn't like about this?
Oh, you mean some high and low points? I think I have a song prepared for exactly this moment.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
Okay, so high points, low points. We're going to go around the rooms, as it were, and talk about what we liked and what we didn't like. We like to do a high point and then on 2 low points and then another high point, and we'll go one at a time talking about it. We like to begin with our guests if possible, so if either of the 2 of you would like to start off with a high point, let's do it.
Sure. One of my high points was I did like the kind of urgent first-person narration. Like, it's goofy and she says weird stuff, but it reminded me of what the Animorph series did to much better effect than this. But it was still just sort of enough of an echo of a thing that I like more than this that it carried me through for a while.
That's a good one.
This one's kind of a cheat, but I listened to the audiobook.
Oh, shit.
And the narrator is Casey Lee Wizinga, and she was amazing. Like, she was definitely able to sell this material that frequently sounds like nothing any teenager would ever say as listenable and interesting. And anytime a reader can make one of these shitty books that we have to read actually engaging to me, like, I have to give them a gold star.
I agree with this completely because I enjoyed Joe Hill's Nosfer or A2, which is not really a good book, but Kate Mulgrew does the audiobook, and she's so good at doing creepy voices that she made this stupid book like really enjoyable to read. So yeah, I think I've even recommended it on the show, but specifically the audiobook version. So.
How long did this take? Because like we've underplayed that this is 450 goddamn pages long.
Yeah, how long was the audiobook for this?
It was a little over 8 hours.
Ooh, wow. That's commitment to Maximum Ride.
Which is, like, honestly, it is around slightly longer than most young adult or middle grade books, but much shorter than most of the adult books that I've been listening to lately that are like 14 hours. So I did kind of feel like it was a little bit of a relief.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, these pages go fast. There's something like 150 chapters, and some of these chapters are literally barely over a page. Like, there's a lot of white space built in.
Well, that's a James Patterson trick. I mean, we've done Patterson, his adult writing on this show before, and he has like a chapter every 3 pages. Yeah. There's a lot of white space in there. Collision, high point.
So one of my high points is that these are this little flock of weird mutant bird kids. And that is a phrase, I think, straight out of the book. They're constantly like calling each other weird mutant bird kids.
Yeah.
And they apparently have this joke where they bust on each other because they're all orphans. None of them know who their parents are. So occasionally they'll just be like, ha ha, you probably hatched out of an egg. And that made me laugh so hard. Like, it's just so mean, but so accurate because little kids are awful.
I think we're kind of on the same page here because, most of my high points in this book are not kind of overarching literary things, more than just moments that made me crack up. Because one of my favorite parts of this book happens when they're in New York having hijinks. They go to New York City, and it's this total fish out of water kind of setting. They go to a fancy restaurant and get kicked out for ordering too much food.
It's a fancy tourist trap.
Yeah, and decide that they're going to fly out of the stained glass skylight and on the way pelt the manager with bread rolls. So that was part one of my high point, but this leads to them getting a lot of press, which is bad because, they've got to stay secret. They don't want to get caught again. And luckily, at the exact same moment they discover they're on newspapers, they're strolling through Manhattan, and a man jumps out of a building to offer them all free makeovers.
Yes.
It just made me laugh so hard because it is so much the way this book works, where it's like, oh, there's a problem, let's solve it right now in the most unbelievable way possible. Because what is free in Manhattan? It's definitely not clothes and haircuts. I know that much. So.
And also, like, who is gonna? Oh, perfect. The perfect models are these 8 to 14-year-old children.
Yeah. Who are explicitly like dirty of face, wearing ripped up windbreakers all the time because that's what covers their wings.
The night before, they slept in a sewer.
Right.
Yeah, they don't sleep in a bed after about page 10.
But then they come out like wearing, I guess this was 2007, like equivalent of like punk rock clothing, and they all have spiky hair. One of them gets a devil lock. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they get made over into scene kids, basically. Well, we've had a lot of fun talking about high points, but ladies, it's time to get low.
Okay, one of my low points, I'm aware that what I'm about to say makes me sound like 1,000 years old, but...
Don't worry, I think this whole podcast is going to make all of us sound that way. So.
All right, well, what I'm about to say is I don't care for bathroom humor.
So Gazer was not doing it for you?
And that's exactly, I have typed in my notes simply low point, in caps, the gas man. So we have mentioned, of course, that Maximum Ride, that's her name she gave herself. They all have these dumb names that either they picked out for themselves or for the youngest kids were just sort of thrust upon them. And so the kids in their bird flock are Maximum Ride, Angel, Fang, Iggy,
Nudge.
And then one kid who they just call the Gas Man or Gazzy. And they gave him that name because he farts a lot. Like, he is a child, and that is the only name that he has. He doesn't even have the last name of Ride. He's not the Gas Man Ride. He's just the Gas Man. And so, I think that's cruel to do to this child.
Yeah.
And then B, every time they said his name, I just had to, like, think about farts for a minute. And that was 10,000 times.
I want to know, too, like, to me, the Gas Man sounds like the villain in like a really shitty B horror movie or something. Like,
yes, also that. Yeah, it makes me think of like poison gas, which I guess is sort of the joke of it. But it's not my go-to for somebody who farts a lot. I would never be like, oh, you fart a lot, you're the Gas Man.
It's very like if I would have grown up without a name and then at like age 12, my mom decided that I was going to be called Pimples. Like, it's kind of...
I'm a vegetarian. So I know whereof I speak when it comes to these matters. And this was actually kind of an ancillary low point for me as well, but from a slightly different perspective. What I was mad about is he's called Gazzy or the Gas Man on like every page. And he farts once in the book and is alluded to. He made a noise that was maybe a fart once in the book, and that's it. Like,
that's true, yeah. For as much as they call him that, he doesn't do it that often.
Yeah, do not promise me bathroom humor and not deliver.
All right, let's keep rolling on with low points here.
Okay. So anyone who listens to our show knows that I work in the mental health field. So any time that frigging mental health issues come up, and you know, in this one we've got like they're living in the subways and this kid comes up and he's like, oh, I was kicked out of MIT because I wouldn't take my medication, and you know, because I didn't like how it made me feel, so now I live in the subways. And Max is like, oh, like he's just like us, children who were imprisoned in an institute and tortured for the first 10 years of our lives. Oof. This young boy who was made to take a medication to deal with his illness, he too has been tortured by a government facility. Mm-hmm. And I like had a rage aneurysm and almost crashed my car.
Yeah, so. I agree. Yeah, the word schizo is tossed around quite a bit. Mm-hmm. This book is not sensitive about mental health issues at all.
No.
It's just not informed about them. Like,
yeah.
I think it would like to think it's on the side of the angels, or at least the angelic weird bird kids.
I see what you did there.
But yeah, it just doesn't know shit about shit, right?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. But yeah, I definitely I had a few raging moments towards the end of this. As you know, as somebody with mental health issues myself, it's a little jarring to read. Like, well, at least I'm not schizo and things like that in a book that's aimed for kids. Not a fan.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
For me, I guess my first low point is really just. It's hard to call this a low point because they did make me laugh, but this book is written from the perspective of a 14-year-old girl who apparently has the like slang and idiom repertoire of a 60-some-odd-year-old man. Like, there are phrases in this book like, you keep showing up like a bad penny. Which, I mean, like, I've never heard anyone say that in my life. That sounds like something from the Great Depression.
One thing that killed me is they talk about helicopters a lot in this book, but not once do they use the word helicopter. They consistently 100% of the time call it a chopper.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Totally, you're right.
There's a phrase where she says, like, this could be it, our chance to find out about our past, our parents, the whole amazing enchilada. I'm pretty sure it's text that she's never had an enchilada.
Well, that's something I want to get into later, is that their life experience varies wildly from situation to situation, but I was going to save that for my second low point, so don't step on my toes, bud. But yeah, no, I mean, like, at one point in this book, and actually, I mean, you might be able to correct me on this with actual library experience, but there's a line where it says, her brain felt simultaneously hyper and sluggish, and she blinked several times, trying to figure this out as if it were a 2-minute mystery. Now, as far as I know, the 2-minute mystery series hasn't been in print since, like, 1988 or 89. Like, I loved them when I was a kid, but that doesn't seem like something anybody that age would know about now.
Maybe she just found them. I don't know. Those are aimed at a younger age group than I work with, so I don't have the definitive facts on that. But I also know it's as just kind of a concept. A lot of times teachers will just be like, oh, let's do a 2-minute mystery as just kind of like a break up the time type of activity.
Of course, she hasn't ever gone to school.
Well, she went to the capital S school.
That's true, yeah.
So maybe they'd be like, we're going to break up our genetic experimentation and just give you this quick little brain teaser.
And then the surgeon said, that's my son.
Yeah. And then the hungover teacher said, the real 2-minute mystery is why I keep going home with that clod.
Wow.
Anyway, sorry.
All right, Collision, I believe it's your turn for a low point.
Yeah. Let's get out of this one fast. This is sort of a borderline high point, low point. We've talked a little bit about how none of the writing in this is believable, but around chapter 52, which is to say about a third of the way through the book, I started to notice that almost all the dialogue really reminded me of a web series spin-off from years past. I want to see if I can find the thing that's specifically it. Anyway, all the dialogue sounds like Teen Girl Squad, and I really enjoyed the fact that all of the characters talking to each other just sounded like they could be saying, like, let's fly! Okay! I'm gonna load! Yeah. And it was just awful.
I would buy the Gas Man as a strong bed character, no question.
Totally. Like he would fit right into that universe. Oh, man. Okay, so one more round of low points, if y'all are ready.
Yeah. My next low point is a little bit outside of the text, but it's... In reading up about the series, I learned that the Maximum Ride series is itself a spin-off of a couple of adult books that James Patterson wrote with sort of the same concept, but from the point of view of the adult scientists. And one of those books is called The Lake House. And then it's not at all related to the Keanu Reeves movie, The Lake House, where there's a time-traveling vacation house situation. And my low point is that it's not related because I would just love it if, like, Keanu goes to his lake house and he opens the mailbox and there's, like, a bird child in it. I think that would really improve both the movie and the books.
Or, like, you spend 2 hours with Keanu hoping he really resolves this time-traveling romance, and then at the end, like, so, Mr. Keanu, what do you do? Oh, I breed mutant bird kids and torture them to see what their deal is.
I thought that you were going to say that your low point when you started talking about that was, Renata pointed this out to me last night, and I fell down the Wikipedia rabbit hole of the adult series, including the comparison of between the adult books and the YA books point by point. And one of the things on that list, spoiler alert, is that Max in the adult series is more bird-like than mammalian in that she doesn't have breasts and she lays an egg later on in it because she has a baby and it comes from an egg that she as a child lays with her body somehow, and that is a mental image that everyone now has that I was forced to suffer through.
Well, she
and then this morning
her...
at breakfast, I pointed it out to Renata because I wanted to ruin her waffles.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's also bad, for sure.
I can't stop thinking of the Kids in the Hall chicken lady.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's keep it rolling.
Is that your low point, Kate? Is her egg, or do you have another one?
Oh, no. I would say that my low point is, like, the really weird relationship between one of the teenage 4th grade werewolves, Ari, and Max.
Uh-huh.
which at several different points seems to have a sort of like romantic jealousy subtext. And we eventually learn that he was 3 and Max was 10 the last time they saw each other. And then, as if that weren't weird enough for this, like, weird romantic undercurrent, at the end, we find out that they were also half-siblings.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable, for sure. Just the whole thing with the way the erasers age kind of lends itself to a lot of real age-based weirdness, because they're essentially, you know, as we mentioned earlier, like, described as being 4 and 5 years old, except they also have this real menacing element to them, and Ari definitely has a lot of, like, don't you remember me, like, kind of lines.
And they're all smart enough to, like, blend in. They look adults. They can walk around like adults. And I've met a couple of 4-year-olds, you know? Like, they you put them in a suit, that does not make you think, oh, I'm dealing with an adult.
Yeah, you have to put one on the other's shoulders first, and then use a really big suit.
No, it's for sure.
I just want to wonder how 2 siblings end up. One of them is named Maximum, and the other is Ari.
Well, Jeb Batchelder, or whatever his name is evidently not gifted when it comes to naming.
Yeah, well, no, Maximum got to pick her own name, man.
Not Maximum.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, just the ride part. Okay.
Yeah. It's also like that weird relationship that they have feels like just no thought was put into it, because like if they have that weird tension and romance, then you've got a pure Twilight situation, right? Because you've got your heroine and she's kind of interested in the werewolf boy, but she's kind of interested also in a guy we haven't talked about yet, which is Fang,
He's the one with the devil lock.
He's the one with the devil lock, and he like when he gets his makeover, it's on the page something like he traded out his all-black outfit for a slightly different all-black outfit. And I was like fist pumping quietly in my apartment like, yes.
I will say that young adult literature does have like a long and storied history of incest or like borderline incest. So that actually kind of fits right in with like Flowers in the Attic.
I was just going to mention Flowers in the Attic. Yeah. Yeah, there is that Flowers in the Attic vibe for sure to their relationship. I guess I should go to my low point is that for a book written, and I mean, once again, I'm in unfamiliar waters here, so I don't know how common this is, but for a book written for an ostensibly young audience, there's a lot of severe ultra-violence here. Like, there are fight scenes. There's one part in particular I wanted to just read because I was like, this is pretty fucking intense. With a hoarse, blood-muffled shout, I ran up and clapped my cupped palms around an eraser's furry ears. He shrieked as his eardrums popped, and he fell to his knees. It's like, yikes. That's very intense.
Yeah, wait till you get to the very late part where she breaks Ari's neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, spoilers, but I went to Wikipedia. He comes back.
I read the extra parts in the ebook that I checked out from my library. Not only does he come back, like, he comes back bigger, badder, and better than ever.
And handsomer.
Yeah.
Who would have guessed?
So speaking of plot, this leads me to my last low point. I was trying to think about how to describe how little plot this book actually has. There's lots and lots of incidents. They go a lot of places. They do a lot of things. But none of it seems unified. None of it, like, leads anywhere. And the book literally ends in the middle of a scene with them flying to D.C. to continue to solve the one mystery they've been trying to solve the whole book. Like, who are they? Where do they come from? Mm-hmm. And I just was like, okay, this entire book, which is 450 pages, that I'm trying hard not to resent having read.
You're mad at this book, Collision.
I'm trying not to be. But, like, this book has significantly less plot than the Johnny Cash song, A Boy Named Sue. Like, that had a major conflict that is resolved. It has a plot twist. It has a big reveal. You know, this book has almost none of that. It has like one half-assed reveal where it's like the bad scientist who used to be the good scientist turns out he says he's your dad. Like, no shit. I knew that from page 20. And I'm like, that's because I'm not 14, but like, whatever. Like, this book had just no plot, and it was infuriating.
Don't underestimate 14-year-olds that much. Like, I'm sure most of the people who read this saw it coming too. It's telegraphed pretty heavily.
And it's one of those things too where, like, I understand if you're pitching a series or you're writing a series, like, you don't want every book to end with a bow, but you need to tie something up. The book needs to come to some sort of conclusion.
Right. Not
necessarily all of the conclusions, but something needs to happen in order to justify a reader continuing. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like the conclusion, I feel like it contradicted a conclusion that they earlier had, which I will say that I did not care enough to flip back and read and check, but I thought that they previously had found some of their parents when they were, like, in Arizona.
Yeah.
And they went to them, and they're like, oh no, all of our parents are in DC.
Those were fake parents from fake documents, if I remember correctly. Like, they were lied to about their origins, and then they discover that they actually have a completely different set of parents, which also includes some really horrible assumptions about poor people that made me very angry. So,
oh yeah, oh boy,
Really makes you think.
Yeah. Anyway. Last round of high points. End things on a good note.
Let's pull out of this power dive, spread our wings, and soar above.
I learned it from watching you, birds. That actually, I'm going to change. This isn't the high point I prepared, but I will, that did remind me that I did like maybe the part when they were just hanging out with actual birds for a while. And again, I mentioned that in some ways this reminds me of Animorphs, but a lot worse. But that was always one of my favorite parts of Animorph books, was when they were just sort of like learning about the new animals that they morphed into. And so for a few pages, that sort of remind me of that. There's a part where they've split up and a few of the kids are just in a cave with giant, like, hawks, I think. And they just sort of get semi-adopted into the hawk family, and they learn all these cool new flying tricks from the hawks. And I enjoyed it.
That part was cool, actually. They talk a lot about the mechanics of flight, because if there's one thing James Patterson loves, it's explaining things to you. So.
That also was my next high point, or my
sorry.
last high point. That's okay. But it was funny. I mean, obviously, you're going to make the Animorphs joke with the hawks anyway, but I remembered it was a hawk because I drove my roommate to the library, and she listened to 5 minutes of this with me, and it ended on something like, but, like, the hawks don't have thumbs, so, like, they can't do whatever. And she made an Animorphs joke. She, who has never read an Animorphs book but has been forced to edit podcasts about Animorphs and filled with Animorphs jokes, immediately made a Tobias joke. And that is why I remembered that it was hawks that they flew with.
I am not familiar with the Animorphs series at all, except for that image someone made of the rapper Pitbull turning into a pitbull on the cover.
Yeah, that's very important.
I like that a lot. So, I guess my last high point is just that there are certain times where the writing style, while not being very convincing from a 14-year-old, I did still enjoy. One sentence in particular that I think is kind of indicative of the moments that I did like was, "Am I tough? Am I strong? Am I hardcore? Absolutely. Did I whimper with pathetic delight when I sank my teeth into my hot fried chicken sandwich? You betcha."
Holy shit. I didn't realize this book was that relatable.
Yeah. No, I was like, I feel you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty tough and hardcore, but man, I whimper with delight for a fried chicken sandwich too. I lied about the first two, though. I'm not really tough or hardcore, but I do love fried chicken sandwiches.
There is this like moment. This is maybe the best sentence in the book for me was, actually, the castle room would have been neat if I didn't hate crowds, sticking out, grown-ups, feeling paranoid, and spending money. And I was like, Max, I feel you, buddy.
Yeah, no, there's a part about how buses suck because you have to be crammed up against people, and I was like, yeah, I can relate to that
Fucking
too.
been there. So I guess my last high point is, so Angel, the littlest one, and obviously the one who's, going to turn out to have the most kind of apocalyptic superpowers in the end, gets kidnapped very early and brought back to the Institute to be experimented upon. And when they're not experimenting on her, they literally stuff her into a dog crate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I honestly found that really affecting. Like, just this is really pretentious, but like, that's the banality of evil right there.
Yeah.
Like, the evil scientists aren't gonna like pay a contractor to make some kind of like bespoke holding cell for this little mutant they're experimenting on. No, they're going to go to fucking PetSmart or Petco or whatever, and they're going to buy some fucking dog crates because they're right
Really
there.
good point. Yeah, they aren't in like Superman prisons or something. It's like a row of kids in dog crates, which you're right. It's a pretty horrifying visual to think of. It's pretty effective.
Yeah, like there's actually one sentence, if I can find it, that kind of undercuts the power of the image, which is this. In the dictionary, next to the word stress,
Fuck, I hated this.
there is a picture of a mid-sized mutant stuck inside a dog crate, wondering if her destiny is to be killed or to save the world. Really? Because in my dictionary, next to the word stress is a novelty beer koozie that says stress is the tension caused by, what is it, the desire to choke the shit out of some asshole who deserves it.
You have much more aggressive beer koozies than I do.
Yeah, mine says stressed is dessert spelled backwards.
Whoa.
That's like my old Garfield shirt I had that said diet is die with a T. I was a popular kid.
The only koozie I have around that is not an I don't even own a television branded koozie. It's something that some friends of mine got me at a state fair years ago that I occasionally take out into the world without remembering how heinous it is, because it just says, "Don't flatter yourself. I was looking at your friend." And I don't know why my friend gave it to me, and I don't know why I fucking still have it.
Yeah, you should get rid of that.
I should get rid of that.
You should absolutely get rid of that.
Or can you cross out friend and just write, like, I don't know, I was
Shoes?
looking at a cool cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
A bird.
I was looking at a bird and then on the backside of it, right, and wondering if it was genetically modified.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the cool shirt I have that says, "If you don't like me, see back."
Yeah.
And then on the back it says, "There's something wrong with you." All right. Wow, we're going way off the rails. We should probably take a break. We're going to go nest with some hawks and learn how to eat live animals, and then we'll be back to play some games.
Hey, you know what, guys? It's hard to soar with the eagles when you're stuck down here with a bunch of turkeys.
There's a koozie right there. We'll be right back.
Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future.
Welcome back to I Don't Even Own a Television. We have emerged from our hawk burrow, and we're here to play some games that involve flying and spreading our wings, and, well, not really. It involves talking about this book some more.
Shall we read some parts?
Oh, God. So, yeah, James Patterson, Maximum Ride, Book 1, The Angel Experiment. Why I have like a mental block against the actual name of this book.
Because it has like 3 names to it.
Yeah. Maximum Ride, Part 1, The Angel Experiment, I believe.
Part of the Maximum Ride, the Fugitive series. How could you possibly not be able to remember all of that?
I feel like I'm like scrolling through Netflix and I've gotten to like the part where it's recommending me animes that are poorly translated and have like 8 titles. So we're going to start out with a game that we like to do all the time. It's called Dramatic Readings. Here is a song.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound recorded. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
All right, so Dramatic Readings, we take parts of this book and we read them to you so you can understand the torture we've been putting ourselves through. And as usual with games, we like to start out with our guests. So if either of you would like to take us in, Just give us a brief synopsis of what we're going to hear, and then get dramatic.
I think Kate should go first.
Yeah, because I'm going to read the prologue at the very beginning of this book, which, because it's the first one in the series, a lot of the material is then immediately repeated 3 pages from now in the actual narrative, which was fun.
Yeah, that seems like a good choice.
All right, so here we go. Congratulations. The fact that you're reading this means that you've taken one giant step closer to surviving till your next birthday. Yes,
What?
you, standing there leafing through these pages. Do not put this book down. I'm dead serious. Your life could depend on it. This is my story, the story of my family, but it could just as easily be your story too. We're all in this together, trust me on that. I've never done anything like this, so I'm just going to jump in and you try to keep up. Okay, I'm Max. I'm 14. I live with my family, who are 5 kids not related to me by blood, but still totally my family. Basically, we're pretty cool. Nice, smart, but not average in any way. The 6 of us, me, Fang, Iggy, Nudge, and the Gas Man and Angel, were made on purpose by the sickest, most horrible scientists you could possibly imagine. They created us as an experiment where we ended up only 98% human. That other 2% has had a big impact, let me tell you. We grew up in a science lab / prison called The School in cages like lab rats. It's pretty amazing we can think or speak at all. But we can. And so much more. There was one other school experiment that made it past infancy. Part human, part wolf, all predator. They're called erasers. They're tough, smart, and hard to control. They look human, but when they want to, they are capable of morphing into wolfmen, complete with fur, fangs, and claws. The school uses them as guards, police, and executioners. To them, we're 6 moving targets, prey smart enough to be a fun challenge. Basically, they want to rip our throats out and make sure the world never finds out about us. But I'm not lying down just yet. I'm telling you, right? This story could be about you or your children. If
Wait,
not
what?
today, then soon. So please, please take this seriously. I'm risking everything that matters by telling you, but you need to know. Keep reading. Don't let anyone stop you.
Wow.
It's like you just transferred into school and like the first kid gloms onto you and just starts talking your ear off like, yeah, I'm actually the coolest one here.
Look, I'm going to save your life. In the cafeteria, don't look Dwayne directly in the eye.
The thing that gets me is it's so dramatic. It's like, this could save your life, but I don't think that's true.
Not unless you can fly.
Like in the Animorphs books, to mention those again because they're great, but they have that shtick of like, oh, you know, this could save your life because you need to know that maybe aliens are turning your friends into pod people and you wouldn't know it, and here's how to tell if they're pod people. And so that actually seems like it would have sort of practical applications if in fact your family was turning into pod people. Whereas this is like, that's not gonna happen because if you're reading this, you weren't grown in a lab.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it transfers. It doesn't seem like this information is useful to anyone outside of their bird family.
Like, first off, I know I don't have wings. Second off, I know who my dad was. He's this guy in these photo albums that my mom has who I've never met.
Always with the sad shit, man.
I also just want to say that if I've learned nothing else from reading this, and God help me, I don't think I have learned anything else from reading this, it's that I've got to get some Animorphs into my life.
Yeah. Maybe it's time. Maybe I've finally matured enough for the Animorphs series.
Yeah, maybe I'm ready. Wow. Okay, so we've had the prologue. What could possibly follow that? Is it 450 pages of plotless bullshit?
Yeah, basically. But I guess I'll go next because I feel like we're working our way in order here. So I'm going to be reading a part where Max and I believe at this point it's just Max, Fang, and Nudge have left their home to try to save Angel, which involves flying to California. But on the way, Max spies a child being bullied, and it's in her nature to save things and people. So she decides she needs to take a little break from their adventure to go on a different adventure while the other two continue on.
Let's get maternal.
Yeah.
Violently maternal.
Here we go. Absently, I chose a flickering shape below and focused on it, watching a small blob become people, take on features, clothing, individuality. It was a group of kids, maybe my age, maybe older, who couldn't be more unlike me. Well, so what, I thought. They were just boring kids stuck on the ground doing homework, with bedtimes and a million grown-ups telling them what to do, had to do everything all the time, alarm clocks at school and afternoon jobs, those poor saps, while we were free, soaring through the air like rockets, being cradled by breezes, doing whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted. Pretty good, huh? I almost convinced myself. I glanced down again and refocused. Then I scowled. What had, at first glance, looked like just a bunch of boring earthbound kids schlepping to school together now turned, upon closer examination, into what looked like several big kids surrounding a much smaller kid. Okay, maybe I'm paranoid, danger everywhere, but I could swear those bigger kids looked really threatening. The bigger kids were boys. The smaller kid in the middle was a girl. Coincidence? I think not. Once again, this was written by a 40-year-old.
Oh, I don't know. 14-year-olds are hella cheesy.
Don't even get me started with the whole Y chromosome thing. I live with 3 guys, remember? They're 3 of the good ones, and they're still obnoxious as all get out. Hashtag not all men.
Hashtag not all bird mutant kids.
Anyway, here's the line that really made me pick this. I made one of my famous snap decisions, the kind that everyone remembers later for being either the stupidest dumb butt thing they ever saw or else the miraculous saving of the day. I seem to hear more about the first kind. That's gratitude for you.
That is actually, I think, Max's like high point in a lot of ways. Like that's kind of her most charming, maybe because it's not the 5th time you've heard every one of those jokes.
Yeah. Once again, though, this is a 14-year-old girl. By the way, you know, they don't exclusively mention it, but coded as relatively Gentile, who uses the word schlepped. I enjoy that a lot. And coincidence? I think not. I really like that.
Do you remember when, without missing a beat, somebody asks her what a knish is, and she knows?
That's true, actually.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, man. There are actually parts of this book that made me really hungry, too, but I skipped that. I was originally just going to read the scene where they order too much food and then get kicked out, but I realized, like, if I do that, I'm going to be really disappointed with my own lunch later, because it's like, I'll take 2 pounds of prime rib, and, oh, it's so good. Okay. Anyway, what's next? Some ATM action, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go to a restaurant and order too much food, first you gotta get that coin.
Yeah.
And so, Max has acquired an ATM card, and we haven't even gotten into how she hears this voice in her head that is giving her information, and she's not sure if she can trust this voice or not. Anyway, the voice tells her, if you can figure out the password to this ATM card, you can use it and you can get money. So here we go. This bank card would work at any number of different banks. Taking a deep breath, I swerved over to an ATM. I swiped the card and punched in Max Ride. No dice.
No, you didn't.
Wait. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I don't want to brag, but I've used a lot of ATMs. And they're numbers. Like, your PIN is a number. Like, it stands for personal identification number. It doesn't stand for, more than 4-character word. And, like, even if we're assuming she's doing, like, the telephone trick of, like, you know, the M is, like, 7 or whatever, that's still 6 characters. That's too long for a PIN.
Yeah.
Come on. Anyway, so it's not Max Ride. Next, I tried our ages, 14, 11, 8, 6. Wrong. I tried typing in password. Wrong. The machine shut down and told me to call customer service. Of course not. Of course it's not password. Okay. Then we kept walking. In a way, it was like we were deliberately slowing ourselves down to give us time to buck up for the Institute. Or at least that's what my inner Dr. Laura thought. Of course, she knows who Dr. Laura is.
What?
Yeah. Then, what about, like, the first initial of all our names? The gas man suggested. Which is his first initial T or G?
That's a good question.
Maybe it's something like, give me money, Nudge said. I smiled at her. It has to be shorter than that. Like, fuck you, Max. You tried password, and you're being condescending to nudge this child. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. They try some other stuff, but here's what the password is. Angel looked up tiredly, her blue eyes sad. Why don't you try mother, she asked, and started tracing a crack on the sidewalk with the toe of her sneaker. Why do you think that? I asked, surprised. She shrugged, her arm moving to hold Celeste, her teddy bear, tighter and then falling emptily to her side. Fang and I exchanged glances, then I slowly swiped the bank card and punched in the numbers that would spell out mother. I guess she was doing numbers for others, but still. What kind of transaction do you want to make? The screen asked. Speechless, I withdrew $200 and slipped it into my inside pocket. How did you know that? Fang asked Angel. His tone was neutral, but tension showed in his walk. Angel shrugged again, her small shoulders drooping. It just came to me. Okay, so the password is the 6-digit mother. Also, another thing we haven't really talked about is these kids are all obsessed with their mothers, and they always say mother and never like mom or something. Which again, being written by like a 40-year-old man who wants his mother.
Well, I have a slightly more positive take on this. Like, it's really clear to me that James Patterson novels are basically written in real time. That's one of the reasons all the sentences are so short. Like, he's not thinking it through. You know, it's just like bam, period, bam, period, next thing. So periodically, like, whatever song he's listening to kind of intrudes. That's why you get these like, welcome to my nightmare. Like, section 2 of this book is called Hotel California, sort of. Yeah. Which, like, what the fuck are you talking about? So it's pretty clear to me that he's typing. He hasn't quite figured out where this is going. Mm-hmm. And he's got his radio on, and the Danzig's hit comes on. So he's like, oh yeah, mother, that seems fine. How I know that that's true is because Angel doesn't have Celeste here. And he forgets it and has to like cover it by like, and then her arm fell emptily. Right now, she's lost her teddy bear and Ari has it.
The teddy bear that
and he uses it to lure her out of the tree several chapters later.
Yeah, and she obtains this teddy bear by creepily brainwashing a woman in FAO Schwartz in a scene that I like to describe as the horror movie version of Big.
Yeah. I mean, half this book...
In addition to none of these kids talking the way that a child of their age would talk, which obviously, again, like written by clearly a much older man, Angel in particular vacillates so wildly from like actual small child to adult that it's hard to keep track. Like in some scenes she's like, yeah, like I understand the danger that we're in. I understand things. And then in others she's like, oh, I dropped my teddy bear and there are people with guns running after us, but I'm going to stop and turn around and run after it.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
The other thing I want to quickly mention is I learned from Wikipedia that the voice in Max's head that is giving her all this information is in fact Angel. So obviously there's a bunch of books in between that maybe explain a little bit more about how Angel is doing this or how she knows this, but it doesn't quite add up.
I think you mean Angel from the Buffyverse.
Oh, I didn't click through.
I'm just guessing by how batshit this book is that at some point Angel goes into the future and as an adult is able to communicate back with.
Or
I'd
maybe
buy that.
So we've got 4 obvious choices. The future projecting back to the past thing. Mm-hmm. Angel from the Buffyverse, Angel from X-Men, which this has no obvious inspiration.
Oh, yeah, the X-Men for this? No way.
Not copyright
way.
infringement from. Or number 4 possibility is Angel from the Aerosmith song. Of the same topic.
Well, now you're the 40-year-old writing this book.
It me. Classic rock guy. Okay, so I would like to do a dramatic reading now, and I want to give you a little thing that I call the shortest chapter. This is 8 paragraphs in the middle of a much longer scene. I did a quick count, because I can count to 8. 4 of these paragraphs are of 1 sentence. One of these paragraphs is, in fact, of 1 sentence that consists of 1 word. And no paragraph is longer than 3 sentences.
Hell yes.
The gas man was standing by a fabric-covered wall, and, with typical curiosity, he had pulled the fabric aside. Slowly, we walked over to him. 6 sets of eyes opened wide as saucers. Except minus the gas man, there's only 5 of them. Anyway, when I was 2 feet away, my heart slammed to a halt inside my chest. I put my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. Angel did scream until Fang cupped a hand over her mouth. Behind the curtain was a glass wall. Okay, no biggie. But behind the glass was another lab room with lab stations, computers, and cages. Cages with sleeping forms in them, child-size forms, dozens of them, mutants, just like us.
Ooh. The drama gets high.
So you can tell why that needed to be an entire fucking chapter all on its own. It really moves things along. Also,
how many chapters are in this anyway? Like 180 or something?
It's like 150, close to that. I just want to say also, if I hung out with a kid who was so notorious for pooting that he was known as the gas man, I would not walk up behind him just because he found something behind a fabric-covered wall.
That's a good point.
Fart joke.
Well, I mean... All right, let's move on. Let's do another game here. Let's do a what is your fave?
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
Okay, it is what it sounds like. I know, Collision, you have one prepared.
I do. And I expect this one to be a whole lot of fun. So we spend most of our time in this book with the flock, right? It's 6 kids, each just brilliantly drawn, perfectly evoked, right? We've got Max, the leader, Angel, the magic hostage, Nudge, who we haven't talked about too much, but is kind of a nudge and talks too much, Fang, the goth, serious guy, the gas man, and I don't think we've even mentioned his name, Iggy, the blind albino.
Yeah.
So, instead of what is your fave, which is the character from the flock who best represents you? Who did you find yourself in out of all these brilliantly drawn characters?
Oh, God.
Oh, Jesus. Somebody else should go first because I have to think about this long and hard.
And note, you can't pick somebody that somebody else has picked.
Oh.
Ooh, yeah, because there's only one of each person.
Right.
I almost hate to say it because she's so irritating, but I think I'm a Max.
The problem is they're all irritating. Because I hate to say it, but I think I'm a Nudge.
I was going to go with Nudge myself, too, because I believe her defining characteristic is that she talks too much.
Yep.
But if I have to pick somebody else, it's probably definitely going to be Fang, mostly because of his sartorial choices. I'm a man known to wear a lot of black, so...
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, total gas man.
Wee bop bop ba da bum.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention that Iggy is not only a blind albino, but he's their demolitions and explosives specialist.
God, yeah, we skipped over. There's a whole scene where they basically home alone their cabin.
Yeah, but with pipe bombs. Like they home alone people by causing their Hummers to flip over and like improvised explosive devices to go off.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh God, talk about like violence that felt over the top. Like when they very intensely described the burned bodies of two people who exploded out of that cabin. Jesus Christ.
yeah.
I think it's that part, or maybe it's something else later, but there's also a part where they're either making a bomb or doing something dangerous, and Max addresses the reader to be like, if you think that I'm going to tell you how to make a bomb and be responsible for that, think again. And then just moves on, which I really liked. Okay. Let's do What Would They Do?
Sometimes the tensions are hard to divine, and others the clear as day. So tell me, what would they do?
Okay, so what would they do? Pardon me. Put yourself in the shoes of a character from this book and try to figure out how we would react to certain situations. So for this one, I know both Collision and I have one. Collision, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. We talked about this a little bit earlier. They go to a fancy tourist trap restaurant and order all the food. And because they're mutants and birds, they have very high metabolisms. So when they eat a lot. So they each order basically 2 adult entrees plus a lot of sides. And they get kicked out of the restaurant for this, and eventually the cops get called. And so, as you mentioned, they decide that they're going to blow their cover for the first time in like the 4 years they've been on the run. And that the thing to do is bust the wings out of the windbreakers, which is a trick that is never adequately described or explained for my taste. Fly up into this New York restaurant, which, like all buildings in New York, has very high ceilings and a lot of wasted real estate, and start throwing bread rolls at dickish waiters.
Yeah.
Right? However, this is captured by someone who has a camera and ends up on the front page of the New York Post the next day. Now, we all know that the New York Post would 100% caption this with a punny headline. And James Patterson didn't give this the second pass of editing that would have revealed this to him, so he did not give us a punny headline. So in the world of Maximum Ride, we are all New York Post editors. And we have to caption this grainy shot of weird mutant bird kids throwing bread at people. Go.
What's the restaurant called again?
It's like the Glass Castle or
the Village something.
Village Inn.
I don't think it's the Glass Castle, but I love that crossover.
Yeah.
Wait, what is the Glass
The
Castle?
Glass Castle is a book by Jeanette Walls that was also a movie that's like her grim memoir of growing up in poverty.
I saw that over the holidays. That movie sucked.
The book's really good though.
Okay, I'll give that.
Either
the
way,
movie,
it's
however,
not a restaurant.
Yeah, I
don't
also
think.
agree the movie was not good. It's anyway, we're not talking about that book, but
no, it's the Castle Room.
The Castle Room.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go first just because this popped into my head. How about this? Hot wings now available at the Castle Room.
The one I was going to give you to get started would have been Free Wing Circus Freaks.
Ooh, that's good.
We wouldn't make very good New York Post editors.
I know, because they've this is the amount of time they would spend and then send it off to the print.
Yeah.
I want to say something like what's the deal with airline food? But like it's sort of a step too far because they're not really like airplanes. But that's all I can think of is like something about airline food because they're flying.
The Castle Room. New in-flight meals at the Castle Room.
Ooh, there you go. What's a foal? Does a foal have something to do with a bird?
No, that's a newborn horse.
Damn it. I was like, something about bread foals throw bread rolls, but that doesn't work at all. Never mind.
Yeah, like
But you know
in-flight
who, you know
meal,
who could do that
definitely.
is the Animorphs when they're being horses.
There we go.
So save that.
Yeah, I'll save that for when I read all of the Animorphs novels in 1 month. In-flight meals was a good one. Any other options here, or do we move on?
I don't know. Fly bread, I don't know. But that only works if you know what fry bread is.
Yeah. So I've got one here. I've kind of already given my own answer earlier in the show, but basically, if you were, say 98% human, 2% bird, and you were 10 years old and allowed to come up with your own name, what would it be? And I think I already said I would be Knight Rider Cyber Dude for sure.
Yeah.
Just because that's my go-to funny name for all situations. And I guess it doesn't even really have to be bird related because Maximum Ride definitely isn't.
Yeah. I think at that age, I think I would have picked like Cucumber Melon, and then my last name would be Glitter.
That is pretty good. Collision looks pissed because you just stole his idea.
I'm trying to think of what I liked when I was 10, and it was like The X-Files.
Whoa. They let you watch the X-Files at 10? Jesus.
So your name would be Spooky.
Actually, yeah, it would probably be something like Spooky Cupcake.
There you go.
That's actually also my favorite Three Investigators story, is the mystery of the spooky cupcake.
I was gonna say it's my favorite Spice Girl. Was there a spooky spice?
Scary.
Scary Spice. Spooky Spice would have been better. Anyway, sorry. I'm just entertaining
Spooky Spice
myself.
is in the American bootleg version.
God, yeah. Like, I had nothing as a 10-year-old because I was a strikingly dull 10-year-old. So it would have been something like...
Math Fredrickson?
No, it would have been... It would have been like, intramural soccer comic book. Which is not great.
Sporty Spice.
But by 14, like, I'd basically turned into who I am now, 30 years later. So it would be something like...
Collision?
Yeah, exactly. It would have been like burnt coffee jelly bean.
That's pretty good.
Or like coffee sugar rush.
If you couldn't think of one, I was going to christen you Rad McLightning. So. All right, let's move on. Let's do one last game here, because if there is ever a book that called for Russian roulette, it's this one. So here's a song.
Russian roulette, Russian roulette, Russian roulette, not actually Russian.
All right, Russian roulette. We actually should start.
I have gone to the trouble of harnessing the awesome power of the internet and generating random numbers for each of us.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So who would like to go first? And I will assign each of us numbers.
I can go.
You are page number 366.
All right. So that takes us to chapter 108. And here we go. When I blinked awake the next morning, I was greeted by newspapers and breakfast in bed. What? I mumbled. We got breakfast, Fang said, taking a bite of muffin. You are out for the count. As I took my first bite of muffin, I became aware of the quivering tension around me. What else? Fang nodded toward the newspapers. I figured you got him for the comics, I said, pulling the pile closer.
Wah, wah, wah.
Up until now, our main survival strategy had been to stay inconspicuous, to hide as much as possible. I guess having our pictures plastered on the front page of the New York Post, under the huge screaming headline, Miracle or Illusion, Superhumans or Genetic Freaks, blew that strategy out of the water. So I think all of our headlines are better than that.
Yeah. Plus, I like the fact that it's like the New York Post and they didn't even stop to think it might be, terrorism related or something like that. I figured that's where they'd go for sure.
Right.
I guess I'll go next.
Yep. Please go to page 117.
117. Oh, Nudge sat back on her heels and spread her wings out, enjoying the feel of the sun warming her feathers. She tried to be quiet and not disturb Fang, but after 5 minutes, she was close to meltdown. Fang, we've just got to go find Max, she said. Or should we go on and try to find Angel? Fang pulled his attention away from the hawks with difficulty. We're going to circle back, look for Max, he said. She must have run into something. Nudge nodded solemnly, unable to define what kind of something would have kept Max from them. She didn't want to think about it. Fang stood tall and dark against the weathered sandstone of the rock cliff. He looked down at her, his face calm and patient, his eyes reflecting no light whatsoever. You ready? Nudge jumped to her feet, brushing sand off her butt. Absolutely. Where do you think we should? But Fang was already gone, snatched away by the wind, borne upward by air rising from the canyon below. Nudge took a small running leap off the cliff after him. Tarzan, she yelled, whatever that was supposed to mean.
The next random number is not long after this, and it is 228.
228. All right. Fang, I bellowed. Iggy, Gazzy, come on, let's go, go, go. Almost reluctantly, they pulled high into the air. Iggy moved through the hawks. By some unspoken message, he communicated that our battle was over. Those beautiful birds swerved gracefully and rocketed upward, making my ears ring with their wild calls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I counted, rounding up my own flock and urging them higher. Fang, get Angel! Angel had managed to stay airborne all this time, but she was sagging and losing altitude. Immediately, the gas man flew to one side, Fang to the other, and they held her as they rose. More white coats and erasers streamed out of the building, but we were too high and moving too fast for them to hurt us. So long, cretins, I thought. School is out forever.
Perfect. What a good random number.
455 pages of this shit.
So long, cretins. School's out for the summer. I'm just glad they didn't get to the point where he started talking about other Alice Cooper album titles.
The government had spent so much money breeding us. Truly, we were billion-dollar babies.
There you go. I was trying to figure out how to work billion-dollar babies in. Oh, that's great.
Okay, I got page 438, so we're rocketing toward the exciting climax of a book where nothing much happens.
No, a lot of stuff happens. The problem is this book has like 18 exciting climaxes, and that's the issue, I'd say.
We haven't even talked about like this main thing where they find a bunch of mutants just like them, let them all go, and their own leader says, peace out, and takes them all off stage, and we never hear from them again.
Oh, don't worry. They come back. You know they do. In book 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Or perhaps book
Or
1 of the second saga.
Yeah.
They probably are completely forgotten, and like James Patterson is listening to this and being like, huh, sounds like a third series.
Oh, shit. Series 3.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, did I leave the oven on? Did I leave these characters?
All right. Oh, okay, interesting. Jeb's horrifying words echoed in my head again and again, the meaning and consequences seeming worse every time. You killed your own brother. Could that be true? How? Or was this just more theater? Part of my test? Somehow we made it up to the street where Fang was waiting. I felt faint, like I'd been hit by a truck, but I forced myself to keep moving. I remembered what was stuffed in my pockets. Names, addresses, pictures. Of our parents? Where are the other kids? The mutants? I asked Fang. So much was going on now, it was hard to keep it all straight. But it had to be done, so I did it. The girl with wings took them. He shrugged. She didn't want to stay with us. Wouldn't take no for an answer. Sound like anyone you know? I waved him off. I didn't want to talk about it now. Didn't want to talk about anything. I'm gonna skip.
That was serendipitous, though.
It is. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. It was 2 minutes later that I realized Angel was carrying something besides Celeste. Angel, what's that? Something small and black and furry squirmed under her arm. It's my dog, said Angel, and her chin went stiff, like it always did when she was about to get stubborn.
Yeah.
And then maybe the best sentence in the entire book, many pages later. Angel, explain the dog.
At which point, this is a James Patterson book, so I'm very surprised we didn't get like 3 pages about the history of domesticated dogs. Yeah, we didn't mention yet. I mean, A, I'm sure a dog would be terrified to be flying hundreds of feet in the air held by a small child. But B, the dog's name is Total and has the superpower that it can jump really high.
Yeah, like 16 feet high. Shit.
Wow.
I resent that I picked the Gas Man as my avatar in this book instead of Total.
Total the dog. That's true. All right, I think we're done with games. Let's go ahead and take one more break, and then we will come back and recommend other things. Welcome back to I Don't Even Own a Television. We're done talking about bird children now, I think. I hope. I don't know. So this is the part of the show where So this is the part of the show where we recommend things that aren't the thing we just read. Once again, as usual, we like to start with our guests. So what's good?
Well, as I've mentioned, the Animorph series by K.A. Applegate, just really, truly peak 90s series books for young adults. Really great. Out of print, hard to find now, but worth it if you can find them. Also,
amazing cover art, too.
Really good cover art.
Iconic.
Yeah, they reissued a few of them with like lenticular, so it like shifts. That's also very good.
Ooh, like baseball cards.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the special editions, very collectible. I don't know. And then of course, like what this reminds me most of, and what it offends me because it's trying to be this and doing it so badly. We've mentioned X-Men. Another thing that it wants to be is, I think, the Runaways series,
Ooh.
which is a great comic series. I love the original run by Brian K. Vaughan. Right now it's been brought back, and it's being written by Rainbow Rowell, who writes some young adult books that are actually good, and also these comics are pretty good so far, too. It's being drawn by Chris Anka, who was, like, born to draw the Runaways.
Legit.
So that's my recommendation, is check out some Runaways comics.
Cool.
I also had Runaways down as one of mine. Great minds. Renata and I continue to be super on brand. But my other recommendation is, which is like a very weird thing that is just an excuse for me to recommend one of my favorite musicals.
Oh boy.
It's not what you think.
Spider-Man, turn off the dark.
This better be Rocky Horror.
At the beginning, when Angel is kidnapped, Max just keeps thinking they took my little girl, where's my little girl, over and over again, which is a line in the musical Ghost Quartet by Dave Malloy, which is slightly obscure, but amazing and weird, and like reincarnation mixed with four friends drinking whiskey and Fall of the House of Usher and old-timey fairy tales and 1001 Nights, like all in a blender together. And
wow.
It's great.
That sounds awesome. I'm going to go next. I've become a broken record at this point because apparently the only things I read now are cozy mysteries from Britain written before 1930 or so. But I decided recently I was going to reread Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot. which I did pronounce correctly. Internet, thank you very much. The complete short stories that were published in Sketch from, I want to say like early 1900s. It includes the Trials of Hercule series, which is very entertaining. And one of the things that it really reminded me of is that I've begun to think of Poirot pretty much in my head as David Suchet, who plays a very charming character on television. But the reality is that in the books, he's an insufferable dickhead. And it's really fun to read because most of it I just spent wondering why Hastings continues to want to spend time with this man who does nothing but insult his intelligence. Like, there are literally lines in here where he says, well, Hastings, you do not have the gifts and stuff. And I love it so much. So, yeah, that's my recommendation. Also, these are very short little mysteries because they're originally from a periodical. You might even call them 2-minute mysteries. But yeah, they're just a really good example of the genre if you enjoy short mysteries featuring incredibly unlikable protagonists.
Yeah, I'm going to call an audible. I had something else, but like, if you absolutely positively have to read some YA stuff, why not just reread some S.E. Hinton? You know? I think that'll treat you a lot better than this fucking thing will. Because at least by the end of an S.E. Hinton book, you laugh a little, you love a little, and god damn it, you might just learn a little.
You know, I'm going to go back and revise too, since we're talking young adult. And I feel like I'm amazed I haven't recommended this before, but Judy Blume, just in general, and especially Super Fudge, which also deals with a lot of fart humor, actually. So, yeah, that's a good book. So I think that's gonna about do it. Thank you so much for being on the show. We have had a great time. Thank you for suggesting this weird ass book to us.
Yeah, and
Thanks
you guys
for
are like
reading it with us.
You guys have done like a lot of James Patterson, it seems
This
to
is
me.
the third James Patterson book that we've read.
Yes.
We did one of his middle school books. I think it was Middle School, Get Me Out of Here, which is truly, actually, very surprisingly weird.
And, like, disturbing. Like,
Upsetting.
yeah. Woo.
Yeah, so we did that. And then we did Violets Are Blue, which is an Alex Cross book that was weird, but not quite as, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, that middle school book is wild.
He's definitely slightly better at writing for adults or hiring people to write for adults.
Right.
But definitely, I want to recommend to the people at home, if you enjoy our show, you should definitely be listening to Worst Bestsellers if you aren't already, which you probably are, because I feel like this is a pretty narrow area of the podcast world. But definitely, it's been a pleasure. So thank you so much for being on the show.
And look out, because we will be guesting on their show.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy talk. Look at us.
It's a Marvel Comics crossover event.
It is. Look at all the cross promotion occurring.
And in proper Marvel Comics form, we're going to make you buy both the issues.
Yeah.
No, but thank you again. And we'll talk to you shortly on your show.
Yeah, please find us on worstbestsellers.com. People listening to this, if you want to see that episode or some other ones that we've done, such as Middle School, Get Me Out of Here, check out that bonkers book, please.
Yeah.
Or don't read the book, but just listen to us talk about it.
And you can find us on Twitter at Worst Bestseller with no S.
Couldn't get that S.
Yeah, it's always tough to get that extra S on Twitter. I've been trying to get Jay Friedman's forever, and they just won't let me do it. All right, so I understand we've got letters.
We do.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
So sometimes you send us things, and sometimes we read them, and sometimes they're amazing.
Exactly. All of which is true this time around. word to the wise, we have a little bit of a backlog right now. We've gone super long today, so we're only going to do one letter. So I guess we only have letter this time around. If you've sent us something, rest assured we're going to get to it.
That means the song was a lie. Well, no, we do have a lot of letters. We're just not going to read them.
Exactly. So this is from a longtime friend of the show named Todd, fake last name, and it goes like this. Hi, Jay and Collision. Jay has mentioned Wavy Davy B a couple times, so I hired the legend himself to do a pair of IDEO TV drops. Thanks for the many hours of entertainment, and I hope you guys enjoy.
This is amazing, and we're going to play both of them right now, back to back, so you can hear the legend himself.
If you're like me and don't know what a Wavy Davy B drop might be, you're about 20 seconds away from knowing.
And your life will change forever.
You're listening to I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about bad books in the mix. In the mix. This is DJ Wavy Davy B, and I don't even own a television.
Yeah, so this is the man who on YouTube sells, you can hire him to say your DJ name and in the mix and all that kind of stuff. And what he always has reminded me of is for a while there was this trend in rap music of like DJs would get this over-the-top white guy DJ voice to say things like Trapaholics would have, "Damn, son, where'd you find this?" and stuff as the drop. Like, that's their signature sound that they put in between songs, so you know it was a Trapaholics mix. So, yeah, you'll probably hear a few of these in the future.
If you're near me, you may hear one of these as my phone's ringtone in the future.
It's pretty incredible stuff. So thank you so much, Todd. Yeah, I guess I have probably brought him up several times just because I find him so entertaining and strange and bizarre. And it's awesome to know that our listener community is cool enough to commission Wavy Davy B to do I Don't Even Own a Television drops. So thank you.
And if you don't think I'm going to reach out to him and try to figure out how much it would take to outsource further dramatic readings, you don't know me.
Ooh, yeah, I'm sure for like a cool $50, he'd read a chapter of something in that voice.
Especially a very short James Patterson-like chapter, you know? Like,
Maximum ride set out from the top of the cliff.
All right.
I Don't Even Own a Television is Saturday, taking place in a giant mud pit.
With Truckosaurus, the 500-foot tall truck that breathes fire and crushes cars.
Actually, 500 feet would be huge.
I Don't Even Own a Television will sell you the entire seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Son,
What was it? My hometown radio station growing up was
98 Rock, Clearwater, Tampa, St. Petersburg, a 100,000-watt mother.
Whoa.
So there you go.
Oh my God, that's who these kids were looking for.
98 Rock. I believe that's where Bubba the Love Sponge got his starts.
Oh God. No, but they were looking for their 100,000-watt mother.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so we wanted to thank you for listening. We will be back again in a couple weeks with another episode. And as mentioned earlier, we're going to be on Worst Bestsellers soon, returning the favor. I guess you could call it. Just
crashing their party.
Yeah, one or the other, depending on how you want to look at it. But it was awesome to have them on the show. Thank you all for listening. If you want to find us on the internet, we're at idon'tevenowna-television.com. We're on Twitter and Facebook at IDEO TV Pod. You can email us at idon'tevenowna-television@gmail.com. I think that's about it.
And you can find us on patreon.com/IDEOTVpod.
That's true, because our patrons there, like all of our other shows, have brought this show directly from our microphones to your ears. So, until next time, I was going to say ride the crab, but fuck, we just did a whole thing about flying, so I don't know. How about ride the wind?
Whoa.
I'm a scat man. I'm a scat man.